Hello, welcome to this next Marvelous Designer tutorial. This one's going to be like a bit of a sectional one, in that we're going to make an outfit. We'll start with the pants, make a top, and then I'm going to make an overtop. So we're going to do like a fitness outfit. So first of all, I'm going to start by adding my avatar, and I've created a G8 avatar from Daz Studio. I think I've got a video somewhere about that. I'll try and link it somewhere. So let me just double click on that and add it to the scene, and then I'm going to turn it into a monochrome view. Not because I'm particularly prudish, just want to avoid any kind of possibility that I get sanctioned for some sort of nudity shenanigans. Okay, so with that said, because my patterns are going to create white and she's white, I'm just going to change her colour. So if I go to double click on the avatar, it's going to come up with the material property, and down here it's currently white. I'm just going to turn it into a bit of an off grey. There we go. Okay, so starting with pants, I want a waistband, and for that I need a kind of a measurement around her waist, of course, and for that we'll use the measurement tool. So I'm going to use a basic circumference, and then I'm going to click somewhere around a midpoint, and then with shift held down I'm going to come out just to one side, and I'm going to let go of shift and then just angle it ever so slightly, because you know, if it was completely horizontal across her waist it would look strange. You know, I don't think pants fit like that. Mine certainly don't. There's a little angle in there, and there we go. So now we have a nice measurement for her waist piece. And if we go to the 2D window and pick the rectangle tool, I want to create a rectangle which is about 782.9 millimeters. So we just zoom in there. So I'm going to click somewhere around the center and type, what did I say, it's 782.9, and I'm going to give it a bit of depth, maybe 50 millimeters, and everything else is fine, so I'll click OK. Now here's a little trick. I want this to stay at that point. I don't want it to go anywhere. I don't want it to be riding up. I don't want it to be riding, pulling down. I just want it to be where that measurement is. And for that we can use this measurement tool here, which is attached to measure. If I select that and then click on my measure and then click on the edge that I want to attach to it. It's like a sewing seam, if you like, but to the avatar. So if I then press space to sim it, it's going to attempt to sim, and it usually messes up a little bit. You just have to pull it around until it kind of behaves itself. And then in the 2D view we'll pick segment sewing, and I'm just going to sew the back up there. There we go, and that should sort it out nicely. So now I've got a piece which is, in place. It's not going anywhere. It's going to be the waistband for jogging pants or leggings or whatever they are, and they're going to stay pretty stable, which is important. We don't want it sliding all over the place. So yeah, why not attach it to the avatar? Okay, so that's the waistband part. In the next bit we're going to actually form a leg of these leggings, pants, whatever they are. But before I do that, I'm just going to adjust my collision distance. So I'm going to double click on the avatar, and I'll get the avatar properties up, and in there we've got a skin offset millimeters. Now this makes a difference. If you measure everything perfectly and your skin offset is, say 3 millimeters, the default, everything's going to be about 3 millimeters out, or more, depending upon the maths of it. I'm not sure about it. So I'd just like to reduce this now to 1, and then resim to let it fit back again. Whoops, let's press space. There we go. Now it's much closer to the body, and the measurement is not stretching quite so much. I know it's only 3 millimeters, but it makes a difference. Okay, so what we do in the next bit, then we're going to form the leg, one leg, and then we'll just shape it to get it to fit nicely. So I'll talk to you then. Okay, so to start my leg off, I want to know what half of this distance is. So let's just select our pattern edit, or edit pattern rather, and then select that bottom line, right click, and excuse me, split. And I'll pick the uniform split, number of segments 2, click OK. And now I know that this is 391.5 millimeters. Perfect. So then we'll go to our rectangle tool and just left click into the viewport and type in our distance. What did I say? 391.5, and 500 is perhaps not enough, so let's make that 700. Sorry about the pause, that's just my brain going into evaluation mode. Everything else is fine, so we'll click OK. And I'm just going to move this into place, and then in the 3D window I'm going to select our pattern piece, let's move it out of the way, and then press Shift and F for Freddy to get the arrangement points up, and then I'm going to arrange it somewhere around there. There we go. It's going to pull it up so it's about midway. Now this isn't going to work. If I sew this up, we'll get a good idea of what's going on. Let me press Shift F again to get rid of those points. There we go. So I'm just going to tug this a little bit to make sure it's in the middle. There we go. So this point, somewhere around here, wants to be vertical down here. So I've got a little point here because I've clicked on this point and I've got a corresponding blue bit in the 2D view, and I'm just going to add a point somewhere around there. So if we add a point, I'm going to point at that point there, and then right click and get myself to the nearest whole number, so 501. That's only because I can remember it then. And then on the other side, if I'll point at a spot, right click, yep, this is reversed. So actually I want 501 in the bottom line there. There we go. And then click OK. So now I've got 2 points which are about the right place. And if I go to the edit pattern, I can move these, that looks like the front point, until they're somewhere around vertical down this axis. I'll do the same on the other side. I'll just press space to let it sim, and there we go. So now it's not going to pull it in and distort it quite so much. I also need, in this particular line, to add some curvature to cover the curvature in the body here. So what we'll do is go to the edit curvature. I'm going to grab that in there and bring it in, and similarly on the back, and I'll bring that in as well. Now it's worth noting here that if I go to edit pattern, I'll be able to see some kind of curve lines here which I can adjust. I don't want these curve lines to be pointing in something like that direction, where this becomes like a more jagged, more sharp point. I don't want it to be crossing over in that way. So if yours is, you can click on these lines and just adjust these curve adjustments to get where you want. And if you want to increase the curve, of course you can do so in the same way. Okay, so that's got that bit. Now the question is, does it work? Is it enough? And we can find that out if I select on this piece, and then right click and symmetric pattern with sewing. Just pop that there. There we go. Just going to go to my sewing tool, segment sewing. I'm going to sew it up to the waistband and then sew it to itself. And because it's symmetric and with sewing, it's going to sew properly, or sew both sides rather. And then I'll sew the front up and I'll sew the back up. Okay, so all things being equal, this is going to work really nicely. There we go. So that gets us the basic shape of our joggers, whatever they are. But we are going to need to do a little bit of adjustment, which we'll do in the next one. I'll show you why. If I select this leg and right click and hide the 3D pattern, you'll see I've got a lot of space here between the body and the actual pants, so I'm going to adjust that to make it fit better. Okay, so I shall talk to you in the next one. Okay, so with this I can see that I've made this line essentially too low. So if I go to edit pattern and I select all of my points there and then push them upwards, it's going to shrink those lines and give me a much nicer fit. That was a bit fluky, I think. Perhaps I I usually do it sort of a couple of times. Press F to focus, there we go. But yeah, just adjust away. Now in the back, no, it's alright actually. I was just thinking that this might be a bit low, but I think it's following the curve and the pull of the fabric. Don't forget I've got another piece here, it's just hidden currently. Okay, so let's unhide that by right clicking, whoops, make sure I've got nothing selected, right click and show all 3D patterns. There we go. And that's pretty good. Don't be concerned too much about little bits of poke through. We'll deal with those as we increase our pattern distance. Okay, so I mean these are okay as pants go. However, I'm just going to pull that down a bit to ease that waistband down a little bit. It's a little bit bulgy. There we go. But we want to tighten them up down the bottom because these are, workout kind of legging kind of pants. They're not, casual, and they're a bit loose currently. So what we can do for that is if we point at our pattern piece and click on it where it starts to get a little loose, which is around this mid-thigh point, we can start to divide this up a little bit and adjust the size. So if I add a point in here, so it's somewhere around there, and right click just to make sure, let's make that 325. Okay, and I'll do the same on the other side. I'm going to right click and type in, you can see this is switched, 325. There we go. And now with that I can grab that point with the edit pattern tool and just bring it in ever so slightly. And if I right click now, I don't want to move it on the Y, so I'll set that to 0 and I'm going to set this to 16, and that's just so that I can do exactly the same on the other side. So I'm just going to pull that in, right click, 0 for Y, 16 for the other one. There we go. Just press space, let it resim, and that hasn't changed it over much. But what we can now do is, while this piece up here above is fitting quite nicely, we can actually start to reduce this. Now you can reduce both sides, by points if you want to, but all I'm going to do is select the line, right click and change length, and it's currently 391. I'm going to maybe bring it down to 370 and select the direction to both, so it will do it from both ends, and then click OK. You'll see in the pattern. That's taken a slice of material out. I can press space and it will start to tighten up. So 370 wasn't enough, so I'll right click and change length again. I like to do it in small increments personally. You know, you may have a different idea or may have a different method, but I like to do it in small pieces to, you know, tighten it down rather than overdoing it the first time by a lot and then releasing off. Again, we've got a little bit of material taken out of there, a little wedge, and as we bring it in it's going to start to tighten up. Now around the knee here we have a similar issue. So my bottom is quite nice, the bottom of the garment is quite nice, but around the back of the knee it's not quite right. So what I'm going to do is I've clicked somewhere around there, go to our add point, going to right click to pop a point in, 182, okay, line is too short, cannot be created, okay. Well, let's do this a different way. I'm just going to right click on that line with the pattern edit tool and split it and use a uniform split. That's going to get me somewhere close. So split and uniform split, and now I can bring these inwards. Just going to press space here to constrain it to an axis, and when I press space it should start to tighten up. And it might actually now be that actually I need to really bring that in, and so I'm going to bring that whole line in there, and I'll bring that line in there, and there we go, we're starting to get nice and tight. Yeah, even though this is a tight garment, I do like to leave a little bit of slack in it, because having a completely gonna put it tight garment, yeah, makes it not look like cloth, if that makes sense. So I personally leave a little bit in, but that's entirely up to you. Tighten it up as you want. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. It's about the length I want. All I want to do now is put a cuff on the bottom of these. So if I select this bottom line, right click and offset as internal line, I'm going to use 50 again to match the waistband offset I did, and then click OK, and then right click on that line and cut and sew. There we go. Now I'll press space to let it sim, and now we've got the basics of our pants. I might actually tighten that up a little bit more. I think a little bit over cautious with that. There we go. Perhaps a little bit on the other side as well. Sometimes it's very small margins, you know, a nudge here, a nudge there can be, you know, perfection or disaster. Well, in my case anyway. Okay, so there we go. Not an awful lot to do on these now. I do want to put some thickness on the extremities, the waistband and the ankle pieces. What would you call those? I can't. I don't know. I want to say cuffs, but I'm pretty sure that's not true. At the hems, I guess. So we'll do that in the next video. Okay, so the easy way to do this is to simply select all of our pieces we want to add thickness to, right click and copy, whoops, and then paste those back in again. I'm just going to put them down here for the moment. Now these we then need to sew back to our originals, so I'll just arrange these. There we go. So with the segment sewing tool, so the top to the top and the bottom to the bottom. Whoops, that was the bottom to the top, sorry about that. And then the same for the waistband. I've split the waistband, so I'll have to put that extra one in there. Okay, now a really handy tool here is the overlay So if I right click on here, sorry I didn't mean overlay, I meant superimpose. So if I right click on the waistband and superimpose over, it's going to go to where I've sewn it to, or the piece I've sewn it to, and align it up. So I can think I can do more than one at a time, and I'm superimposing over. There we go. And if I press space, we now get a little bit of thickness, but we can adjust it. We need to adjust it. First of all, I want to hide the avatar. So if I select the avatar and press Shift and A, it will hide it. And now I want to reverse the normal direction for the underlying pieces. You know, if you're not doing it for 3D purposes, you might miss this bit. It might not bother you. But if you want to use it outside, I would suggest you do it. So select the inner piece, right click, and then flip the normal. And similarly down the bottom, right click and flip the normal. And then press space. There we go, still going. Space to turn off the sim. And now I want to sort of tighten it up because these are a bit bulgy. You know, there's no kind of it's kind of a non-shape really. So what I want to do on the top piece is if I select all my lines, whoops, I think I moved some of there, and then I'll select the lines for the bottoms as well, and then I'm going to right click and offset as internal line. I'm just going to do a very small offset of 2mm, and then I'm going to click OK. Now the sim's not running at the moment, so we should see a little bit of magic happen here. So you'll see that those lines are kind of just running along the surface of our piece. But when I press space and sim it, you'll see that they really tighten out, because adding those internal lines has added geometry. It's added a very thin layer of geometry around the pattern piece, and that's enabled the geometry to sim in a different way. It's got more geometry to work with, and we've controlled where the geometry is by offsetting that line just a very small amount, which forms a much more convincing thickened waistband, or cuff, hem, whatever these bottom bits are called. Okay, so that's those bits. So let me press Shift A again, and that will bring my avatar back, and that is essentially the building of the pants. We need to perhaps put a popper material on it, and to maybe reduce the point distance, but we'll tidy those bits up in the next little bit. Talk to you. Okay, so because I'm going to be building more than one garment in here, I want to keep the materials a little bit separated. So first of all, I'm going to select this fabric, and then we'll rename it. So we'll call this pants, I guess. It's as good as any. And for this, there is a substance fabric, one of the default substance fabrics, which I think will be useful. And there's this stylized SBS AR down here. So I'm going to drag and drop of that over the top of our pants, and that's going to come in with its default values, which are all far too large, but we can adjust those down. So with the material selected, I can come down to transform, and our pattern is too big here. I want to make it smaller, so that means I need to reduce these widths and heights. I want to reduce them but keep the aspect ratio, so at the bottom I'm going to select lock aspect, and if I take this down to maybe 100, it's going to get into more a better kind of state. And you can go up and down on that, that's entirely up to you. Where else do I want? Well, I want to rename this. I renamed that early, so let's call that pants, and I believe it's custom parameters down here somewhere. I just want to change the colour. It's decided to lock up for a moment. There we go. No, something's not right. Have I got the sim running? Yes, I do. Let's turn the sim off. Always become very unresponsive for me. I don't know what's going on. Here we are. Technical parameters. Oh, come on, open up. Oh, this is making me look alright, Charlie, isn't it? Ah, it's because I'm on the back. There we go. Sorry about that. It's me being foolish. Just be careful, like I just did. Don't select these ones and then expect to be able to change the material. Right, so custom properties. Then we've got fabric color, and I just want to select that to be something close to a darker grey. Don't want it to be completely colourless. So I'm just going to slide up and have a little bit of blue. There we go. Click OK. Sorry about that little hiccup there. Right, so next then, now I can clearly see I've got some poke through here and there. I'm pressing the sim button and it's not helping. So let's take this to a more realistic value. I'll select those, and in the particle distance I'll take that down to 15 to start with, which is kind of my first step really, and then press space, and there we go. Now everything fits nice. That might not be my export value, but it's just my value to get close. Now, I don't like to go too low in a project, because the more pieces we start to add and the more, the tighter the point distance gets, the bigger lag it will be on my machine. And I was already panicking about that when I was messing up with the material earlier. Okay, so that's our pants done. I'll save this as a video and get it uploaded, and then I'll come and add the second one to the series, which will be our first top. Okay, so I will talk to you then.